All right, by now, guys, you know I love talking about old wrestling. What you might not know is it's not my real passion. My real passion is helping people save money. My real passion is getting families out of apartments and into houses. My real passion is getting people's finances aligned so they can retire on time. I hated going to Walmart and seeing the greeter being 80 years old. She should not be working. She should be home. Why is she still working? Because she still has a mortgage. I want to help avoid that for you. The other thing I want to help you with, let's make sure your kids don't get saddled with student loans. If you've got a student loan, why did you get one? Maybe because your parents still had a mortgage. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm being sincere. There's only so much money to go around. What I want to help you do is figure out where you are right now and where you want to be long term. And I do it at SaveWithConrad.com. I've been doing mortgages for more than 20 years. And during all that time, we've helped tens of thousands of families change their life. I mean, routinely, we're helping our podcast listeners save $500, $600, $700, $800 a month. But more importantly, get them out of debt faster and with cheaper monthly payments. But if you don't think it can happen for you, let me just tell you this. We are not the bank. We don't say no. We say not yet, but here's how. We're going to get you a game plan on how to improve your credit, how to save a little bit of cash, and how to get into that dream house. Maybe you're already in the house, but it would be nice if someday we could put a pool in the back, or one day we want to upgrade to hardwood floors, or remodel the kitchen, or get a badass master bathroom. I can help you do all of that with no money out of pocket right now at SaveWithConrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need money out of your pocket. And if we can't help you save some cash, we won't waste your time. Check it out, SaveWithConrad.com, NMLS number 65084, equal housing lender. And hey, y'all, don't take my word for it. Check us out. We've got an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. And as if that's not enough, go look at our reviews. Read them and weep, haters. ConradReviews.com. You'll see more than 1,000 5-star reviews. Our average review is 4.72 stars. Find out how much money you can save. Take control of your life in 2023 by taking control of your finances. We're going to show you how to keep more of your own money. If you've got credit card debt, what are you paying on that? 14%? 28%? You know you can do better. With the mortgage, though, you may not know this, the interest you pay is tax deductible. And we can even show you how to skip your next 2 house payments. So if you can get a lower monthly payment, pay your debt off faster, get a greater tax deduction at the end of the year, and right now, right after the holidays, skip your next 2 payments, buddy, this is the biggest no-brainer in the history of the world. Find out how much money you can save right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com, or hey man, shoot me an email directly, Conrad@SaveWithConrad.com. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross. Jim, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. How are you fellas?
Man, I'm excited to be with you today. Of course, it is Royal Rumble season. Everybody's getting fired up for this Saturday, a very rare Saturday Royal Rumble. And you might ask yourself, why is the Royal Rumble on Saturday? Well, the championship playoffs are on Sunday.
That's the reason.
We had another great weekend of NFL action. This Sunday, Jim, we got 2 big games for all the marbles, as they like to say, in the NFC and the AFC. On the NFC side of things, it's going to be the Eagles. And that's who I'm picking. I'm picking the Eagles over the 49ers. What about you, man? You going 49ers or the home team, the Eagles?
I like to see what the weather's going to be like, because I think that's could be a difference maker. But we were talking before we started recording, and, my buddy Trent Williams, number 71 for the 49ers, is the left tackle. He's considered the best left tackle in the game. And then you got on the other side of the coin, the right side, as far as positioning is concerned, Lane Johnson, another one of my buddies from Oklahoma, been in my house a few times. Just a good guy. He's a monster. God almighty, he's a monster. And so 2 of my Oklahoma boys are in that game. And then Cincinnati's game, they got 2 running backs from Oklahoma.
Wow.
And, Samaj J.P. Ryan and, of course, Joe Mixon. So that's interesting for Cincinnati. And then Kansas City has got the starting center, Creed Humphrey, and the starting left tackle, Antonio Brown. Is it Antonio? I get that mixed up all the time. But anyway, the left tackle, number 57, is an Oklahoma boy. Good kid, big kid, great fan. And then Creed is Creed came to one of our he came to our last uh, AEW shows in Kansas City. He brought the whole offensive line with him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They brought me some swag and signed it and all that good stuff. Stuff I didn't request, but I was proud to get it. So
Absolutely.
it's I got a little Oklahoma Sooner attachment to these games, which makes it. I was telling you earlier, it makes it really good because I don't have to live or die on this game.
There you go.
I can just watch it, enjoy it, see how the strategy comes out. But the one thing about I've seen in these playoff games, the level is raised, the intensity is upped, no doubt, because they're looking at playing. This I officiated for over 20 years, and not on that level, but the semifinals of any big tournament seems to bring with it more stress because you got one shot here now. You got one shot to be great and to get closer to being a historic team, and then you got and then if you don't make it, that's how close you got. So I don't know. It's going to be a great football weekend. Back on Sundays.
Yep.
That's a good thing. So if anybody's wondering about why Saturday for a Royal Rumble, that's the reason. You got the audience. And Raw should do, I don't know what the Raw ratings were. I don't keep up with that as much as I probably should. But they got a clear house tonight because they don't have any football against them.
Yeah.
Or tonight as we're recording.
Right.
You
right.
might
right.
gather that, folks. You're a detective school. That means we're recording on Monday morning. So it's good.
So listen,
anyway,
I'm going Eagles and Bengals. That's my prediction for the Super Bowl. Well, that's who I want to be there.
Yeah.
Who do you want to be there if you had to pick?
Well, if I had to pick, I'd probably pick Cincinnati and Philadelphia.
Okay.
I'm a Jalen Hurts guy because his 1 year at OU, and I know he had that great career at Alabama. If he was a star at Alabama and he was a star at Oklahoma, that tells me all I really need to know about Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
I went to several OU practices when he was there. I always hung around the guys. And I loved doing it, and it was just great. Give me something where to go, and my buddies are there and all that good stuff. Coaches. He looks like Jim Brown or somebody. He's jacked, and he's thick. He's a stud, man. So hopefully he'll do well, and O'Lane will get a ring, and that'll be great. So we'll see. But yeah, I like the Eagles. I like their toughness, and I like their offensive line is good. But now you're down to where all these offensive lines are pretty damn good, and then we enjoying the conversation once again how important it is to win the line of scrimmage. And here's why. You control the clock, you control your play calling, you control your formations, everything. So that offensive line is huge. The line of scrimmage is huge, shall we say? So anyway, I'm with you, Conrad. I'm going to pick, and I don't have any. I hate to see any of them lose because I got friends on both teams, both games. So we'll see how it works out. But it'll be good. I'll be watching. That's for damn sure. I'll be watching, and it's hard to believe that the Royal Rumble is here. That was always a fun event to call. The matches leading into it could be anticlimactic, and how could they not be in a match not named the Royal Rumble? So we'll see how that pans out. But I'm hopeful they'll have success, and guys will get in, have good matches and good outings, and not get hurt and things of that nature. And of course, then AEW this week, we're emanating from Lexington, Kentucky. I think we're in the Rupp Arena.
Okay.
I think we're in the Rupp Arena. I know that I read an interesting article the other day on Adolph Rupp, pretty much a known racist.
Well, maybe the hint was if your name is Adolf.
It might be. That's a good lead.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it should be. The nice thing about it, I'm not flying into another time zone.
That's something that's underrated. I mean, you and I even you're on the Eastern time zone right now, but when you're home in Oklahoma, you're with me in the Central time zone. And
right.
Boy, we've had our Who's on First routine with that. I can't imagine the folks who have to live it and breathe it every week. And hey, something else we should mention, and don't get me wrong, we're excited to be here today with a great topic. We're going to be talking about the Bunkhouse Stampede.
Right.
And a lot of folks don't realize this, but the Bunkhouse Stampede is the reason people are excited to see the Royal Rumble this weekend. It didn't exist. It was created to compete with the Bunkhouse Stampede. So we're going to talk about all that. But before we do, we should talk about the real tragedy that befell wrestling last week that still got a lot of people on their heels.
Right.
The incredible, I think, one of the pillars of Ring of Honor Championship Wrestling, and of course, their maybe most prolific tag team wrestler of all time, along with his brother Mark, Mr. Jay Briscoe, no longer with us. Such a tragedy. You know, you hear about a lot of quote unquote wrestler deaths, but nobody ever plans for or expects one like this. I only had the chance to meet Mr. Briscoe a handful of times. I don't think you guys work together a ton. Did you get a chance to meet Mr. Briscoe?
Oh
And what did
yeah.
you think of his work?
I always enjoyed. He was a very enjoyable conversationalist. He had a great personality, very respectful, and he is certainly going to be missed by all. And I feel so sorry and so sad for his family. His little girls are hurt in that wreck. They were in the car with their dad, and they're lucky they're alive. I guess the story I read was that the driver that hit them veered across the center line, and they hit head on. No warning. And that's just a damn shame. It's all a shame. Don't get me wrong, but he was a real nice guy. He's a pro's pro. They made their bookings. They worked their ass off, and they've perfected their art of tag team wrestling immensely. So, yeah, he's going to be missed. I'm glad that I know that the wrestling world, including AEW, is reaching out and doing what they can to help. And it's just a shame seeing the pictures on Facebook and so forth of the little girls in the hospital room
Oh,
together. It's very moving.
yes.
Very, very moving. I got two daughters. I can't imagine. I just cannot imagine. I can't even put myself into a place where I can imagine how that would be. It's terrible. So our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. Hope the little girls heal. I'm glad the wrestling world is reaching out and helping. So I don't know if I don't know if their GoFundMe will be as significant as that player for the what was it for the Bills
Right.
on his fundraiser. Once the word got out, his toy charity, which was nothing short of amazing how much money people threw into the pile. But I know that the wrestling community will help him. And if you get a chance, folks, if you can afford it, feel so moved to do something, then give it a shot. I mean, it's $5. It's $5. And so, give that some consideration. Do something nice. I find myself having better days when I started off by doing something nice,
There you go.
and it's just a better deal, better psychologically and all that good stuff. So
We'll throw the link
anyway,
up on the screen here so you can go ahead and donate. But it's givesendgo.com, givesendgo.com. And you want to look up love and support for the Pugh family, Pugh family. That's Mr. Briscoe's real family name.
his
Uh,
given name.
yeah. So the thing is about this that was so cool, Jim, is they originally started this fundraising effort with a goal of raising $50,000. And then they moved the goal to $200,000. And as you and I are recording now, they're over $286,000.
Wow.
Just an outpouring of support. And I know some things that have happened behind the scenes that we probably shouldn't share or overshare. But let me just say this: there's a lot of really great people taking care of a really great family here, and I'm just so proud that occasionally we stop some of our silly infighting and tribalism, and everybody sort of comes together for a great cause. I don't know if you heard it, but on Friday Night SmackDown, Michael Cole even gave a shout out to Jay Briscoe and his family, which I just thought was something I would have never imagined. I mean, this is a guy who never worked for the promotion, and
Hmm.
for Cole to go out of his way to do that, and more importantly, WWE allow him the opportunity to do that, I thought
Right.
was just a really classy gesture.
I didn't hear it because I didn't watch it. What was I watching? I was watching something else, obviously, but I was home and I missed that. But hey, Cole's doing it. Also about Michael. Michael's doing a real good job. I don't know how with Vince back how that's going to change his approach or change or if there's any governors on him or any limitations. But he's done some of his best work uh, after Vince left. I don't know if that's tied together. Have no idea. Maybe he's more relaxed. Maybe he didn't have somebody in his ear blasting away. I don't know. But he's done some really good work. Should be pointed out because he's had a unique run there to say the least. And I'm glad he's my friend, and I'm glad he's doing well.
Well, I'll tell you what, you could be doing well too if you're sporting a beard, because we got some good news for you. Breaking news, in fact. Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They're once again revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature beard look. And now you can finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match your carpet by going to manscaped.com and using the code Jim Ross for 20% off and free shipping. It's time to tame your mane. No one likes a weird beard, so say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a juggernaut of fixing faces. It's a cordless trimmer with a rotary wheel, and it gives you 20 positions of precision with one guard. So you don't have a messy drawer full of extra add-ons. That's right. Grooming your face doesn't need to be hard. 20 different lengths in just one guard. Plus, it's waterproof. Shave in the shower and avoid all that hair in the sink.
I like that.
The blade is tough on hair but smooth on your face. And that leads to what we like to call single stroke efficiency, which Tony Schiavone probably should have trademarked back in '82. That brings satisfaction one stroke at a time, which maybe Too Cold Scorpio could have trademarked in '92. The Pro Kit does it in there, though. They have created 4 dermatologist-tested formulations for your post-trim care. First up, you got the beard shampoo and conditioner. See, all your hair is different. Your beard hair is more coarse and easier to damage than your head hair, so of course you got to have some beard shampoo and conditioner. Next up is the beard oil, and this is an essential piece. If you've got a beard that's a little dry, maybe it's a little brittle, well, the oil is going to relieve both dryness on the beard and the skin beneath, and it gives you a little extra shimmer and shine, making you look extra fine.
Yeah.
Cap it all off with the beard balm. It's going to go ahead and help you shape and style and moisturize and tame and get that sculpted look for the fellows and the dames. Also, 3 free gifts. You get a beard brush, a comb, and some scissors. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Jim Ross at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Just use the code Jim Ross. Manscaped, the Beard Hedger. One stroke, one guard, 20 links.
Not a bad deal. Conrad, how do you rate your beard? Because I don't ever remember seeing you without one.
Well, way back when, I'm going to say 13 years ago, I had a lady friend. Well, let me just say this, Jim. It's undefeated. I shaved my beard off.
You did.
Yeah. I decided to keep the beard and get rid of her. But, it was worth the try. And, yeah, I've been rocking a beard this whole time, and I don't plan to stop rocking a beard anytime soon. It suits me, and maybe it'll suit you. Check it out, manscaped.com. Use that promo code Jim Ross. Let's get into today's topic today, Jim. It's Bunkhouse Stampede. I can't believe this is real. This show happened 35 years ago this week. And it feels as if things are not so good here in Jim Crockett land. We're going to get into it. But as a reminder, we're fresh off of Starrcade 87. That's our most recent quote-unquote big show. And Vince McMahon low-key sabotaged the doggone thing. They decided they wanted to create the Survivor Series to compete with Starrcade 1987. And as a result, he made ultimatums. He went to all the different pay-per-view outlets and cable systems around the country and said, hey, do you want WrestleMania? Yes. Well, if you want WrestleMania, you better not carry this. And when some didn't play that game, they thought, okay, we're going to have to stagger this. So they did a dual pay-per-view opportunity. It really split the audience. The cable system says, never again. We're not playing ball by Vince McMahon's rules. We won't do that again. So Vince turns around and does the ultimate play here and sabotages Bunkhouse Stampede with a free show. Since he can't go head to head on pay-per-view anymore, he'll just put up a free show, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. This is the show that created the Royal Rumble. And it's crazy to think that Starrcade going to pay-per-view is what led to the creation of Survivor Series, which we're still enjoying today. And now Bunkhouse Stampede, you know, it was the impetus for the creation of the Royal Rumble. I don't think enough people talk about that, Jim. That's crazy.
It's interesting how things work out. One thing leads to another.
Yes.
It's just simply outmaneuvered Crockett on that piece of business.
Yes.
And it took the attention away from the Bunkhouse Stampede. I remember that was a cold night too, as I recall. What town were we in?
You were in New York.
Yeah, New York. So it was chilly night that time of the year. I thought we had a good card, but we had no momentum. None.
Right.
Maybe less than none, whatever that could be. And there was just nothing. There's no momentum rolling into it. You got to have some momentum rolling into it, or it's just not going to work. And it didn't work. It wasn't a bad card. You know, it was predictable that Dusty was going to win the first one. You know, that giant boot.
Yeah.
Was a prize. I wonder where that is today.
I don't know. I've been chasing it for a few years. I can't find it. Don't know anybody who knows where it is either. It's crazy.
Cody don't know, or
no.
Wow.
Cody doesn't know. Teal doesn't know. Dustin doesn't know. I haven't met a collector who knows. Nobody's seen hide nor hair of it. But hey, if you know where it is, hit me up. My DMs are open. I'd love to have that in my collection here.
Yeah, that fit in your room down there just perfectly.
Yeah, what?
Yeah. So it's but anyway, it was an interesting time. A lot of strategy, a lot of strategic planning. But you know, those of us that knew a little bit about the business,
right,
knew that we were going to be challenged to do anything decent because, again, that old momentum word. We talked about the NFL playoffs and the down to 4 teams. It's all about momentum. Who's going to go into these games with the most momentum? And you know, we'll find out when they play. And momentum's a key thing, man. It's really it's a significant measuring stick. You got to have it in place, or things just don't work out. And they didn't work out on the Bunkhouse Stampede. I enjoyed working it. It was fun. You know, you kind of get challenged. You know, can we deliver a real good product? And you know the answer is, well, we don't have any momentum, and nobody's really over. Or we've got to see this. We didn't have that situation, so it was a tough hand to play going into the game.
Let's talk a little bit about, just the state of mind that everybody's in here. Just to sort of reset the conversation, WrestleMania 3 really changed wrestling in a lot of ways in 1987, where all of a sudden there's more mainstream attention than ever. The WWF is going to go from running just one house show loop to 3 house show loops. So now we have A, B, and C towns. The licensing opportunities are off the charts. You're starting to hear whispers of guys getting huge 6-figure checks for their dolls because action figures are now a big deal. And those are revenue streams that just don't really exist on any sort of playing field outside of the WWF. No territory has that. Jim Crockett Promotions doesn't have that. Yes, they have a little bit of merch, but to compare the two, it's just apples and pomegranates, as Bruce would like to say. So when the pay-per-view extravaganza WrestleMania 3 happens, Crockett's on his heels to compete. So that's the reason he goes and acquires the Watts territory. And there's some big acts like the Road Warriors who now have a wandering eye. Hey, can I make more money up there? I heard the Iron Sheik got blank for his doll sort of talk. So Crockett goes out and makes big guaranteed contract opportunities happen. And I know the narrative is out there that guaranteed contracts didn't exist until 1996, and that's not technically true. Guys like the Road Warriors and the Midnight Express and Lex Luger, they had it way back here because we wanted to make sure these folks weren't jumping and going to the WWF. But the result was we didn't have the cash to do that on a weekly basis. So instead, we promised big balloon payments, with the idea being, as I understand, Mr. Crockett explained it to Talent, we don't have a WrestleMania. but we can have 4 or 5 pay-per-views a year, whereas they just have WrestleMania, and you'll make more by staying with us. Well, the first iteration of that was Starrcade 1987, which we've started laid the groundwork on. Vince creates Survivor Series, sabotages it. So it's not the financial success we would have hoped for. This is the second act of that, the Bunkhouse Stampede. But at this point, Crockett has to be feeling the financial pressure. You're sort of the new kid coming over with Bill Watts. Was it written all over Crockett and Dusty and David, just the pressure that they were under here?
I
Or
think
could you
so.
not really tell that? Okay.
I think so. I think everybody was, I mean, everybody knew the consequences. Everybody knew the lay of the land. Those balloon payments were the kiss of death, because it just gives you another chance to fail. If you're late, the talents are going to overreact. They're going to get paranoid and uneasy. And there's a lot of paranoia and uneasiness in our locker room at that point in time.
Hey guys, I'm pumped to brag about a brand new sponsor here on the program, and is a personal friend of mine for many, many years. I'm talking to you about Camper Max, specializing in max discounted pricing on travel trailers and fifth wheel RVs that can be delivered anywhere in the lower 48. That's right, from your office, your cell phone, or your couch. Click or call and find out how easy it is to start enjoying that RVing lifestyle. Now, how easy is it? Well, the Camper Max discount will fit any budget, offering easy financing with extended terms. It's just too easy thanks to my pal, Rod Wagner. I've been personal friends with Rod for a long, long time, and he is now opening up to the entire lower 48. So if you're here in the United States and you're thinking about buying a travel trailer, you're thinking about buying a fifth wheel RV, or maybe you're thinking of selling yours, visit my buddy Rod at campermax.com. That's CAMPERMAXX.com, campermax.com. That's Max with 2 X's. Or give him a call, 256-320-7033. Either way, let the folks at Camper Max know that Conrad sent you, and they're going to give you that friend of a friend hookup that I've enjoyed for so many years. Camper Max is the home of the Max discount. That's campermax.com, campermaxx.com. By the way, if you're looking to purchase a motorhome, hang in there. My buddy Rod is working on that now. It's all going down at campermax.com. Let's get out there. Let's enjoy 2023. This could be one heck of a new year, thanks to campermax.com, or 256-320-7033, and let them know that Conrad sent you. Yeah. How big was the pushback on Crockett and Dusty wanting to move to Texas? Of course, this had always been Jim Crockett Promotions based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but
Right.
now we're hearing, well, no, these guys, they're going to go to Texas. And of course, since they just acquired Watts, I could see how some people would be receptive to that. You were there. How do you think that was received by everybody in the locker room?
Not well, because you're on uncharted territory. It's a new deal. You know, change is an interesting thing. Change is not always negative, but it's perceived as such more often than not. So, you know, I was one of those guys that moved to Dallas. I went down there, and against my better judgment, I bought a house in Plano, a nice little pool, little 3-bedroom house by myself, coming off another divorce. My record's great. So we all had to buckle up. And for me, it worked out just fine, because I had to relocate anyway. I mean, I was out of a place to live under normal circumstances. I could afford to buy me another house or rent, but I thought it was probably time to leave Oklahoma.
Right.
And Jimmy's idea was, you know, it just he felt like, in a nutshell, Conrad, that living in Dallas gave his brand more credibility, for whatever reason, than living in Charlotte. So we all went through it. And, you know, he was on my ass daily, seemingly, to buy a house. And I bought a house. And when things changed again, just a few months later, then I had to sell and move to Atlanta. And when I sold my house in Dallas, or Plano more specifically, I lost my ass. and I didn't have the funds to suffer too many losses. Kind of had to start over. I think I lost $20,000 or $30,000 in this house. I didn't buy a huge house, but the
Well,
market died, and when the market passed away, we had to bury it and move on. It wasn't fun.
let's talk about the decision to try to take this company national. It's been criticized a lot. You know, guys like Dusty Rhodes and Vince McMahon would say, or not Vince McMahon, but Ric Flair and other luminaries would say, boy, if he'd have just stayed east of the Mississippi or whatever it is.
Yeah,
The idea being, hey, just stay a territory. But the wrestling business is changing, and you see Vince swallowing up all of your competitors, and all of these individual territories are going by the wayside. So it feels as if, hey, it's now or nothing. You got to go all in. And Crockett certainly did his best to do that. He's
yeah,
got the Superstation. He made a 7-figure investment, from what I understand, to get that time slot. In addition to that, he's gone and tried to strike a deal with Watts and get that territory. And more importantly, not just the territory, but all of the television networks and the agreements that Watts had in place. This puts him over that magical number that he thinks the syndicators are looking for. We'll call it 100 stations. That got him to that number to where he at least had something that could be competitive with Vince. But now, after Vince has maybe sabotaged Starrcade with Survivor Series, the decision is not only to run Bunkhouse Stampede in January as a pay-per-view, but to essentially do it in Vince's backyard. This is going to be at the Nassau Coliseum, the show we're talking about today. In
mhm.
hindsight, was it poking the bear a little bit to run it in Nassau, do you think?
I guess it might have been. I think they just wanted to play the number one market, and that's Vince's market. I mean, it has been forever since the territory days. So it might have been poking the bear. I'm sure that it was for a lot of people. When in different roles have different consequences and bring along different pieces of baggage, and you never really know until everything starts unfolding. And then in my role as a play-by-play guy, you just you got to go to work, and all that behind the scenes shit. Jimmy and Dusty had big plans, but they didn't have a game plan that was going to work.
Right.
The idea of going national is not a bad idea at all. All those markets out there that weren't being serviced, weren't being played. It was a tough scenario, Connie. And but I think going national was the right thing to do, but you had to have a better game plan. And obviously, as things worked out, we can, I think, safely say we didn't have the right game plan.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt about that. I just can't help but wonder, it's sort of how you said earlier, one thing leads to another. And it does make me wonder, had they not chosen Nassau Coliseum, would Vince have tried to compete? Would Vince have tried to create the Royal Rumble to sort of sabotage it? Or would he have just let him run the show? But
No,
maybe he feels like this is a declaration of war on two fronts. A, you're trying to ease in on my pay-per-view business, which I feel like I innovated, silly. And then two, you're running in my backyard. And of course, this is a guy who understood there are no boundaries because he's going and taking other people's territories. But it's clear, man, the battle lines are drawn. And I wanted to know, when did you first hear, hey, Vince is now, since the cable companies won't let him compete with another pay-per-view on this same day, he's going to run a show for free on USA. Heads up with us. When do you hear that?
early on, it was the talk of the locker room,
Yeah.
and guys were just most guys were that knew Vince were not surprised or shocked. It was something that any smart promoter, and he don't mistake it, he might have been unethical in the eyes of some, but he's a smart son of a gun, and he still is at 77. So they've been kind of quiet in their camp. I haven't heard a lot of darn lately. I guess, but I'm sure there's another shoe will drop here, there, and yon. It'll be interesting to see how the creative of the Royal Rumble is played out. And will Vince's fingerprints be on that, or will it be more distinctively Paul Levesque's creative fingerprints? That's interesting questions to ask. And of course, there's only one way to get the answers. Watch the show.
Right.
That Peacock's a hell of a deal, Conrad.
It is.
It really is. It's a great innovation for NBC. It's a very valuable tool, to say the very least. So because you don't have to go through the cable companies anymore. Isn't it funny how that works out? The cable companies got the short end of that stick because Peacock is so easily accessible. Hell, even I can figure out how to find Peacock. So it's all good. I got to figure out how to do Paramount Plus and some of those things. I've been missing some episodes of Tulsa King, which I think is a great show.
No, it's on pause for now.
Is it?
Yeah. No new episodes right now.
Maybe that's why I didn't find it.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm glad we got that straightened out. But next time I see you, though, I'm going to get your iPad and I'm going to add all that stuff.
Oh, good. Well, let's do it.
Hey,
by the way, you mentioned your big show coming to Huntsville. When is that?
Oh yeah, our Patreon get together. We call it Top Guy Weekend, June 23rd, 24th, and 25th here in Huntsville, Alabama. I can't believe it, Jim. We put a poll up on adfreeshows.com and asked them, hey, do you want the next Top Guy Weekend to be back in Chicago? Do you want it to be in Nashville, Huntsville, somewhere else? And Huntsville won overwhelmingly, which I couldn't believe. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people want to check out Space Camp, but that's what we're doing, man, in late June. And looking forward to hanging out with you and taking you to my meet and 3 that you enjoyed before. And we know where all the good eating spots are.
Boy, you're not kidding. And people that come to Huntsville to enjoy this these festivities are going to discover many little gold mines as far as food is concerned.
Oh yeah, I didn't get fat by accident. It was an intention.
It was good, man. When I was there with you before, we never had anything but great food.
Yeah,
and I like those mom and pop places. I like the individually owned, locally owned things. It just, I don't know. I'm more sensitive to that now of shopping locally or taking care of the smaller business guy than not. So yeah, that'll be a fun weekend. I'm going to do everything in my power to make it down there to Huntsville or over there, or however you want to term it. So it should be good. I'm looking forward to it. Hope everybody turns out. I mean, I think that's one of the more neat events of the entire year for a wrestling fan. There's nothing else like it.
I agree.
And you find out too that we, the alleged celebrities, are just people.
Yes.
And I enjoyed that. I enjoy meeting people and taking the pictures and not just moving through the line. Let's go like you're cattle. I loved it. And so it'll be fun. I guess I'm going to stay in your guest room, right?
Yeah, why not?
I just invited myself to Conrad's.
Oh, yeah, you know where it is. We got a Jim Ross suite upstairs with your name on it.
Okay. All right, that's enough. Let's get back to more fiction. The Bunkhouse Stampede.
Yeah, speaking of the Bunkhouse Stampede, Meltzer would say that the Royal Rumble will be an annoyance to JCP, but he thinks where the rubber meets the road is how well can they promote this show built around a Bunkhouse Stampede. The idea is Meltzer doesn't think a Bunkhouse Battle Royal on its own is going to do big business.
Right.
They better load the undercard with hot angles. And if they do, maybe they can make a nice profit. But this is still sort of a test for them because pay-per-view is in its infancy. Most homes don't have pay-per-view. But he would even say the super wrestling fans who do have pay-per-view capabilities in their house probably also have a VCR, meaning they could watch one show and record the other. But the real test is, he says, quote, the key is how well JCP promotes the show over these next 3 weeks and how strong and intriguing the card looks to the general public. And I think that, as simple as it may sound, that is an astute observation by Dave, because he's saying, hey, let's not get too caught up or distracted by the quote unquote war. They got to work on and focus on their own business.
Absolutely.
And I feel like a lot of times that is something that we could even address today, where there is some tribalism about WWE versus AEW. But if the folks who are actually handling those respective businesses are focused on their business and not so much what the other guys are doing. Their business will be better served. No,
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. You focus on the task at hand. And what we needed to do is, as I said earlier about that momentum issue, is that we needed to get some guys or angles, programs, marriages, whatever you want to call them, hot and interesting and unpredictable, so to speak. So I'm a big believer that we just didn't have all those pieces in place. But you got to take care of home base. You got to take care of the in-ring product. So people go away from there and say, "Well, did you watch the Bunkhouse Stampede?" No. Oh man, it was a hell of a show. Really? Yeah. So the next time you have a pay-per-view, you've got some little chatter that people have liked it, and I'm not going to miss this one. So it was important to have a bell-to-bell success throughout the night. I'm not sure we succeeded in all those areas, but in any event, it was an interesting weekend in Long Island, to say the least.
I'm curious from your standpoint, what do you think about the booking philosophy heading into this show, where it felt like every live event also had a bunkhouse match?
Don't like it.
Yeah,
Keep it fresh, keep it new. Find it. Here's one way you can find it. But if I can buy a ticket and go to the Huntsville Civic Center and in the Bobby Eaton Hall or whatever, then it takes a little of the glow off. I believe. So it's like having a bunch of mini Royal Rumbles. That ain't gonna work. Keep it fresh and keep it new, and don't take that path. So, but that's just, hey, that's booking. Dusty was doing all the booking by himself. Now, let's be honest, JJ was there, and JJ was an invaluable help to the operation because JJ took copious notes and was great at record keeping and getting guys to towns and all those things. Uh, so JJ was invaluable, as I said, but Dusty was essentially doing most of it himself. Uh, and I think sometimes he'd get into the lower card and JJ would help fill it in, but that's really not that hard to do because you've only got so many bodies. And here's your list of availables that you could utilize if you chose to in these pre-Bunkhouse Stampede matches. My issue has always been in this respect. I've never been a fan of battle royals.
right.
Uh, because I've refereed so many of them, and it was almost sometimes to be embarrassed to be in the ring with guys that were just half-assing it. And sometimes the battle royal is a lazy night for some talents. They only get good at the very end, and I'm just not a big fan of where you got to. It's like the Royal Rumble. It's got to be good all the way through, and you got to have peaks and valleys. You got to load it up and unload it, and that's how you get guys quote unquote over as they come in and they're devastating and they do great things and so. But you just can't maintain that for an hour. You got to have peaks and valleys, and there's going to be slow spots. I can't remember what I was watching the other day. Something on somebody sent me something to look at, and I just there's dead spots.
Yes.
There's dead spots in these matches because it's just inevitable. So we'll see how it's all. It's the booking of the Royal Rumble is really uh, challenging, and it was Pat Patterson's idea to have the Royal Rumble. He created the concept, and which is a tribute to Pat. He'll always be remembered for it,
Yes.
as he should. But that idea was rooted in the annual Battle Royal in the San Francisco territory for Roy Shire. That Pat worked that territory, I think 14, 15 years, which is astonishing that you can stay in one territory that long. But he did, and he made good money, and he got great reputation, and he just continued to prove himself. If Pat Patterson and that crew in Frisco been around during social media times like we are now, they would be immortalized because their matches were none better.
Right.
No territory had better pro wrestling than Shire's territory. And a lot of it was because Shire was a taskmaster and, hard headed, but he stayed his course until he took us off the ball and his TV started failing. So as we said here many times, Connie, the two keys to pro wrestling, if you're a promotion, I mentioned this about Billy Gibbons. So he has had a birthday. My buddy from ZZ Top, uh, Billy Corrigan. His key is talent and television.
Yeah.
AEW's key is talent and television. Same for Vince. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. But there's a lot of interesting things to evaluate and to watch if you're going to watch the Royal Rumble. How it's laid out, who gets the. You should have two good runs before you get to the final 4 or 5 guys. And Patterson was brilliant at that. Then I think I mentioned this before here. Michael Hayes started helping, and Michael was brilliant in that regard. He's a real creative mind. So it's hard to lay out. It's hard to book, quite frankly. You got to, like any great booking, you start at the end. Who do you want to win? And then work backwards.
Well, what they're doing here with all these little miniature live event bunkhouse stampedes is people are winning these on these live events in order to qualify for the pay-per-view version. The other big storyline is Lex Luger trying to turn on the Horseman. He's no longer going to be a heel. He's going to be the super baby face. And Meltzer would say that it could be big box office with him and Flair if things are handled right. But first, we got to get people to stop changing the channel. We're saying all that because the ratings are way, way down. And Meltzer even says maybe some of this is because they're doing these, they start a match and then go off the air before it finishes. So we're not seeing the conclusion, and maybe that's annoying fans. This is the era where a lot of Dusty's writing and booking would start to receive heavy criticism. And listen, it's been said a million times. Well, in Memphis, they changed bookers every 6 months. Was Dusty getting burnt out here? Was he disconnected because he moved to Dallas? What's your 2 cents?
I don't think he was disconnected because Dusty actually liked living in Texas. That's his home. So I don't think that had a play in it. But I do think there was he was getting frayed around the edges, getting a little burned out, and it's easy to see why and
Sure.
who wouldn't. That's the thing about. I'm not knocking Dusty, for God's sakes. God bless his soul, but he needed to tag out. And I think that a fresh set of eyes and a fresh set of ideas was very much needed. But it just didn't have. He didn't want to give up his power, and he wouldn't have had to have somebody else book it, and then you approve it or disprove it. It could happen, but he's like a lot of old guys that were territory guys, and finally made it to a position of influence and financial security. And it was a tough thing. It was a tough thing. I think he needed help, and you were afraid to say much to him because he took everything as you're knocking my booking type thing.
I see. Took it personally.
Yeah. And that was very unfortunate.
Something else I wanted to ask about is the way we're going to shuffle TV here. Meltzer would write this. The NWA's made a lot of other changes since Thanksgiving. The TV package has been restructured. It appears the NWA will cut down to 2 TV tapings per week, 1 taping for TBS, and the other will be an arena taping for the syndicated package. NWA Pro and Worldwide will become the A shows, with Jim Ross and Bob Caudle handling NWA Pro, and Tony Schiavone and David Crockett doing Worldwide. The UWF show apparently will be dropped. Power Pro and CWF Wrestling will continue as B shows, and that they will consist of matches that have already appeared on the A shows. So it's important to remind everybody that you guys are actually trying to sell a package of shows. And so you're even calling it like the Wrestling Network and saying we could do this and we could do that. And that's what you arm your sales force with across all these 100 and some odd stations. But Meltzer would say that, hey, all of these new shows that we now have to build and service, that's also probably going to spread Dusty a little thin. I could see how, as you said, burnout becomes a real thing here when instead of focusing on one show, now you've got half a dozen.
Yeah, there's no season, as we all know about pro wrestling. So there's never an off time. And when you got a booker that's so possessive, that he's just not going to give up. He's not going to lose his grip anywhere. But there's no reason Dusty had to be working tirelessly on all those syndicated shows and all that stuff, because it became same as. It became, there's no creativity. It was just getting guys work. It's filling out cards. Nothing exceptional. The heavy duty creative stuff was essentially saved for TBS, and then every now and then we'd get some good stuff on those syndicated shows. I was working with Bob Caudle, which is one of the great joys of my life. I love Bob, still love him. What an honorable, good human being he is. And a lot of people didn't even know who Bob Caudle was outside Mid-Atlantic. And they soon found out that Bob Caudle was a hell of an announcer.
Yeah.
And I just love traveling with him. When you travel with Bob, it's like traveling with your uncle. Your heavy liquor is a Diet Mountain Dew or something. Our big task in a day was finding where we're going to have lunch at, driving to the next town. Things like that. Just enjoyable, civil, good stuff. And Bob Caudle should be in any Hall of Fame that exists.
Yes.
For pro wrestling people. He's just, and I know I worked with him. I know how he prepared. I know how he worked. I know he was open-minded. I'm in his territory, so to speak, and I'm the lead, and that's the job that he had, and it didn't affect him one bit. He wasn't boo-boo faced. He didn't have a chip on his shoulder. He was just amazing to work with, positive, and I just love Bob. And those that have never followed his work very much, I encourage that, because you'll find that you're discovering an announcer that never got, he's like Lance Russell, in a sense that he was married to one territory, and nobody knew who the hell Lance was. They did. I shouldn't say it that way, but fewer people knew who Lance was before he went on TBS than when he did.
Right.
So you got two veteran Hall of Fame kind of guys that really didn't get their breaks until the TBS exposure. That was a big deal. I think that was one of the things. There was a time there, Conrad, you probably remember it better than I, where I think one of the reasons Shivani left WCW was because they were going to use me on TBS and use him in syndication.
Yes.
And I think that kind of pissed him off, and he had an opportunity to go to work for Vince, live in Connecticut with those 5 kids. And boy, having five kids is sobering.
Yeah, especially with Lois Shivani. I mean, let's just call it like it is. Shout out to Lois. Hey, let's talk about the way we're now positioning our programming, because one of the changes I just rattled off was the UWF show is going to be dropped. And this, of course, is going to be the show that you sort of cut your teeth on and became a television star with, and now it's gone. And there's some parallels here to something that happened with the invasion. Originally the idea was, we're going to buy this territory. Now we can have interpromotional matches. And if you grew up during the WWF WCW invasion angle, you know how that turned out. And now, just a handful of months after making the acquisition, let's just drop that show. Clearly the Crockett folks didn't see any value long-term in that brand. No.
Yeah. Here's to clarify this 1 second. My opinion is Dusty didn't see any value in it. Jimmy was open-minded.
Okay.
Jimmy just wanted to grow the business, but Dusty had such creative influence over Jimmy that Jimmy just didn't have the conviction, lack of a better term, at the top of my head, to do this. He's going to ride. He didn't want to upset Dusty. He didn't want Dusty to see that, well, Jimmy's got a different idea, or Jimmy doesn't trust me anymore, or whatever. Wrestler paranoia never goes away, man. No. Deep in your heart, it will seep. Starts when you're always afraid men come and take you away. That's a song somewhere. I don't know what
I mean, I wanted to hum along. I just didn't know the melody. The Bunkhouse Stampede match itself, 11 guys in a cage with eliminations coming either after you throw someone out the door or over the top of the cage. This is a Dusty creation, is it not? What do you think of
Yeah,
this concept?
it was okay, but it's just another battle royal
Right,
with a fancy name. And I don't even remember who the 11 and all I remember is that Dusty won it.
right.
And but I don't remember the other 10 guys in the match. I just don't. So
Well,
it didn't have an identity, Conrad. It was another battle royal with a fancy name. I'd say the saving grace might have been that there, and I'll use it only, but there were only 11 guys in it instead of having a 20 man or 30 men. Or I remember one year WWE, I think we did like 30 men or something, 40 or some ridiculous deal just to have a hook. And it didn't sell any more pay per views. It just was different. It created a little different chemistry. So I'm just again another battle royal with a fancy name.
well, I'll tell you this too. It's going down in Vince's backyard, and you know there's going to be violence. There's going to be blood. You might even say Jim Crockett Promotions was going to be like a backyard butcher here. Hey, the wait is over. Quality steak, free shipping, period. Backyard Butcher's restaurant quality are available now. Does that ring a bell when you think about Jim Ross? Get steak quality, bulk meat specials, reasonably sourced and responsibly sourced from American farms delivered right to your door. Imagine opening up a box of high quality steak and being able to recreate that steakhouse experience right in your own backyard at even less than grocery store prices. That's exactly what you'll get when you order from Backyard Butchers. I got to tell you, I didn't know what to expect. We've had a few different meat sponsors across our podcast network before.
Yep.
But when this one showed up, first of all, I was shocked with the quality, especially for the price. Because I think this might be the most affordable meat sponsor we've ever had. So I had a lower than expectation. I was wrong, and I happily admit it. These folks have found a way to deliver quality at a very affordable price. We're talking restaurant quality. You hear JR say it all the time on AEW. Restaurant quality. Well, now you can get it delivered. Talking steak, pork, and chicken. I had a big get together with my my whole family not too long ago for my sister's birthday, and we knew exactly what we wanted. We wanted some Backyard Butcher on the grill. Yep. And the best part is you're going to beat the pricing at the grocery store. I can't believe that's even real, but we're doing it here. So you can really save big on your family's dinner budget and cut out the middleman grocery stores. But remember now, this is responsibly sourced, 100% American, beef, pork, and chicken, sourced from the heartland of America. Backyard Butcher's meat is fresh, it's safely packaged, and it's delivered to your door in eco-friendly insulated boxes. Their boxes and packaging are specially designed to keep your meat within the optimal temperature range. By the way, I had to use it. They've got tremendous customer service that sets them apart. Why did I have to use it? I wanted to call in and make sure, can I get some more of this? If you need help with your order or some grilling tips, maybe you want to get the most flavor out of your meat, you can even chat with their seasoned butchers online 7 days a week at backyardbutchers.com. By the way, we know what type of seasoning you need on it. We'll tell you about that later. For a limited time, Backyard Butchers are offering listeners of this podcast a special introductory deal. You get 15% off, plus free shipping, and 4 free ribeyes.
Yeah, baby.
All for life with every subscription. Now, let me mention, memberships and subscriptions, not necessary. You can subscribe and cancel anytime or try them once. And maybe you want to subscribe on your reorder when you love the price, the ease, the quality, the taste of the steak, the pork, the chicken. Here's the reality. You're not stuck, but you're going to be in what JR calls a reorder circumstance.
Right.
Why would you not want 4 free premium restaurant quality juicy ribeyes?
Oh, I love a ribeye.
And cheaper than the grocery store, Jim? I don't know how they're doing this.
You know, these guys sent me a big box of steaks.
Yeah.
Of different cuts and so forth. And I hear the irony of it is this. Here I'm in Jacksonville right now, and you can't have a grill here. They have a communal grill downstairs, which I've never used because God knows what's been cooked on it. And so you can't have a grill. So I'm a little bit limited on my preference of how I like to prepare steaks. I've been using my broiler, but the bottom line of it is this. These son of a bitches were so tender.
Yes.
I damn near didn't need a knife. And I like my steaks charred medium. You get on when I go to Chicago, we go to Gibson's and I have a charred medium steak. Love it. It's one of my favorite things to do on the road. And imagine that. I like to eat. But man, folks, this came up to us, to Conrad and I and our staff, out of the blue. It was someone that sought us out to want to advertise on our show because they knew that Conrad and I understand good eats. We're both carnivores, and we know a little bit about steak. So I really believe that you owe it to yourself just to try it. Try an order. For God's sakes, you're not going to, it's affordable, and the product is just phenomenal. So I'm glad that we got them on board. I'm glad they're here, and I hope that you guys support them as we have. You will be very, very happy, very pleased with this product, the Backyard Steaks, Backyard Butchers. I love that name, Backyard Butchers. Sound like a wrestler.
It does sound like a wrestler. Why wait? Get your hands on some of the best steak, chicken, and seafood you'll ever taste and make your next steak night an event to remember. Visit backyardbutchers.com. Use that promo code JR to get 15% off your order, plus free shipping and 4 free ribeyes for life. One more time, 15% off and free shipping and 4 ribeyes for life. Beat meatflation at the grocery store. Say goodbye to the grocery store and hello to bulk meat specials. Oh, did we mention free shipping? Backyardbutchers.com. Use that promo code JR. Man,
I'm hungry.
I was just saying we gotta go. We gotta wrap this up. I gotta go grill. Let's talk about where we're hoping to be with this whole Bunkhouse Stampede thing. The Observer would say JCP is looking at get a 3 to 5% buy rate, figuring if they could clear 6 million possible heroes. All right, he means homes here. It's a typo. At a 3% buy rate, that's 180,000 homes at an average of $10 per household. That would be 1.8 million, of which Crockett would probably gross maybe half.
Right.
Now, while this won't compare with what Titan has done, it would certainly enable the company to do a lot of upgrading. It appears that JCP will stretch out the Dusty Rhodes retirement angle for most of the next year. They were hinting without saying on TV that Rhodes might retire after the Stampede, which of course he won't. For now, it's just an angle to get Dusty some sympathy cheers, which most likely isn't being played up too much because it would steal some of the spotlight away from Luger's turn. Still, I do expect a farewell tour during the fall and a retirement match as part of Starrcade. Dusty would be very effective coming out of retirement once per year. While the athletic skills and conditioning would be gone, the ability to do an interview would remain. Do you remember this being the idea? Maybe a retirement tour for Dusty?
Well, they're running out of ideas.
Yeah.
And then you go lean on one that's been around forever. I mentioned earlier, I don't like battle royals, and I gave you the reason why. Guys get lazy in them until the very end. And they just kind of go through the motions, so to speak. Same thing with these retirement angles. Nobody believes anybody's retiring anymore.
No.
You made a whole weekend and a promotion out of Ric's last match, and but nobody, I don't know how many people truly believe that he was going to hang it up and never wrestle again, because I don't know that. I mean, has he wrestled since then?
No.
So
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like when a last match happens in wrestling and you're 73 or 74, maybe it really is it. And I hope for Ric it was, but it's Ric's call, I guess. We'll see. He just recently was on a podcast with me last week and said, I don't know why people keep saying I want to wrestle again. I'm just saying I wish I had that one to do over again, which I think is fair.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, so we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So retirement angles are overdone.
Yes.
And battle royals are they're like they have no balls. They have balls at the end of the match, and that's it. To me, I'm probably in the minority of my opinion of these things. And if I am, people let us know it here or Twitter
On
or
social
whatever.
media for sure. Yeah.
So, but everybody's got the right to their opinion.
Well, it is Dave Meltzer's opinion that it's hard to enjoy Arn and Tully matches because they're great, but quote, how many times can you watch them live when they almost always lose? And this is the era where you would start to see, some unrest. Of course, later this year, they're both going to jump and go work for Vince. But Tully was pretty loud and proud about his unhappiness in this era. Pretty legendary stories. Was it apparent to you that Tully was unhappy with the way he was being booked?
Yeah, he became very withdrawn in the
Yeah.
sense that he he didn't feel he seemingly did not feel to or want to be a part of that NWA team. It was over. And anytime you have any issues with money, I remember that's some good advice Vince gave me back years ago when I was doing the payroll. The one thing you can't allow to happen, JR, is to be late. So even when I had Bell's palsy, even when we're on these long trips, we're overseas, where we are, the payroll got done. And whether I was sick or not, I made sure that the talent got paid on time. Because if you want to start unrest, have the checks be late.
Yeah.
And that ain't cool. And it's same, quite honestly, that's not a revelation. It's the same in any business, isn't it?
Yes.
What's going to happen in your company if you're habitually late on paying your people?
Yeah.
Well, it's
They're
on,
gone. They're gone.
they gone.
Yeah.
Sound like the what's the swamp people? Not swamp people. Oh, Duck Dynasty. I got hooked. I got hooked on that damn show for a while.
I love you called them swamp people. That made me laugh.
Well, they used to be piggybacked seemingly together. Swamp people. I like swamp people. I enjoyed that. I always wondered why they didn't show the bullet going into the alligator's head.
Yeah, they would
Uh,
cut away for that.
oh, they had to cut away. We're very sensitive. You're
Maybe the
hunting.
same reason they don't get a tight shot of a blade job. You go wide on those.
Well, somebody will do it.
Yeah, they will. Captain Lou, where is he when you need him? Hey, so let's talk about the TBS show because here in January is where we start to see that change a little bit. Historically, this has always been the studio show. Now we're shooting a lot of it out in arenas. And Meltzer would comment that it feels a lot more lively. As a longtime fan, when I go back and fire it up on Peacock, I kind of miss the studio show. But I do understand that that does make you feel a lot smaller than what the WWF is offering on their product, where you're seeing jam-packed houses. Because
Right.
Crockett was doing that too. They were doing big live event business, but the studio show was what I sort of grew up on in that regard, and I missed it. What did you think as somebody who wasn't necessarily there for a ton of studio time, and now you are doing more arena type shows for your television tapings? Did you have a preference one way or the other?
Yeah, I like the arena shows. I like
Yeah,
the more people there, the more noise was made, and it felt more energetic. It felt like you could make an emotional commitment to it as you're watching. And let's not forget those are 2-hour shows. So I and that has an influence on who's on it, how they're booked, formatting, so forth and so on. So I like the event shows. I didn't dislike the studio shows because, like many, including yourself, that's kind of what I grew up watching.
right.
I had to drive. We didn't have cable at my house ever that I can recall. My dad and mom they had it after I left. And went to school and started off my little crazy wrestling journey. Uh, but I enjoyed that studio show. That was a big deal to me. I felt good about my journey when I joined Tony and David on TBS. It wasn't the most comfortable fit. You got three play-by-play guys doing the same thing, much like we have on AEW right now. When we do Rampage on Friday nights, we got three play-by-play guys sitting out there, and so somebody's got to give up something, and it's got to be a team effort. I think we're succeeding in that. The Rampage ratings are up. the shows are better, and the talent selection to put on those shows by Tony Khan has been excellent, and it's giving guys an opportunity to maximize those important minutes.
Let's talk about some other big news that's happening here. We're 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 still in this battle, and maybe Vince has signed somebody that we wouldn't have assumed would have been someone he would have went after. Here's the news directly from the Observer. The hot news story of the week is that Titan has inked the best gimmick Dusty has come up with in the past few years, Big Bubba Rogers. With Hogan as champion, Titan needs every 350-pound gimmick they can get their hands on. How Dusty and Crockett would let Bubba get away is another story. Apparently, Bubba is under contract to JCP, but his contract was different from just about every other big name JCP has, in that it doesn't get a set salary for the year. Thus, Titan felt they would have no problems nullifying it if it got to a legal battle. Supposedly, it was just an oversight. If Bubba's contract was the same as everyone else's and he was allowed to leave, a whole hornet's nest worth of problems would occur in Crockett if he were to have let Bubba go. So Bubba is gone. He's going to become the big boss man. And I'm curious what, if any, ripples that left in the office or the locker room for JCP.
Interesting question. Ripples probably there. Everybody was more worried about themselves and the Bubba's future, but they have to factor themselves into the scenario, because if it could happen to Bubba, it could happen to me. And that was a big loss. Bubba got over, and when he was with Cornette, that was a great pairing. Isn't it ironic that so many guys, when they get with Cornette, they get better?
Yes.
And that's a fact. So I that was a loss. Bubba at one time, when his back was okay and he was healthy, he was as athletic a super heavyweight as I ever saw. He was an old, I think, an old offensive lineman in a small college there in Georgia. I'm not exactly sure what school he went to. The fact that he was a legit prison guard was added to the story. But he was such a sweetheart of a guy, really a cool guy. And I got to know him in working for Cowboy, or working in that territory, because Bubba was in part of those runs a lot. And I just thought he was phenomenal. He was booked with a one-man gang. And sometimes those big super heavyweight matches, one big guy against another big guy, leave a little to be desired.
Well, I'll tell you, it's got Dusty on his heels. He does an interview on TV with Bill Apter. He's receiving an award, and he uses this time to really dunk on losing Bubba to Titan and ripping the WWF for basically stealing his Bunkhouse Stampede idea for the Royal Rumble. I could see how Dusty would receive criticism here. You said earlier that if someone approached him with some sort of
you had to be sensitive, you had to be careful. You had to tread lightly, because he was very sensitive and honest to God, very insecure.
Yeah.
Very insecure. And that's not a trait that was totally exclusive to Dusty.
No.
Every top star in the territory area that I work with, and it'll soon be 50 years in 2024, hence our book being called JR50. We had a great productive weekend on the book this weekend, Paul O'Brien and I. Always enjoy. He stimulates my thinking, which is hard to do for an old 71-year-old guy. But it's just, you had to be sensitive about it. And I didn't have that with Cowboy, as long as you did it one-on-one. Never criticize or critique a alpha male like that in public, if you will. Ain't gonna work out.
I'm curious, in your opinion, is Dusty maybe the first high profile example of when the quote unquote booker is also an on air talent? because it feels like people always single that out. And when people say, "Oh, you can't do both," they almost inevitably come back to Dusty. Is that a fair criticism?
Mm, it's pretty fair. Yeah, pretty fair. Uh, Again, it's something I've always been against because there's no objectivity. It creates a natural impasse between the office and the locker room, which you shouldn't have. There's going to be a divide and a gap there, but you want to lessen it as much as you can. Uh, but that situation is a thing where you just can't make objective decisions if you are the above the title. You're the star. You're the key hero, and it's just tough, man. I don't know that it can ever work out. I don't think it can work out today. And you see where that's headed. You don't have anybody in those positions. I don't think Tony Khan has any plans on wrestling. But who the hell knows? I don't.
Yeah.
Hey, look, that's one thing about his company is that he keeps everybody on their toes and he's unpredictable.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah, so crazier things have happened, Connie. Hopefully that won't happen, but who knows? That'd be fun.
Meltzer would write a little bit of dirt. He would say,
my God.
More to the story about Thunderfoot, Joel Deaton getting fired. Apparently, he was given notice on 12/25 in Greenville while driving home to Charlotte. He allegedly ran a red light and hit a car broadside, and a 23-year-old woman who was the driver of the car he hit died. He was arrested on January 3rd and charged not only with vehicular manslaughter, but also with 2 counts of passing bad checks and possession of drug paraphernalia. If convicted of these crimes, he could face a maximum 5-year prison term. Do you remember all this with Joel Deaton? That's a story that I don't feel like anybody talks about.
I was a little disconnected from that. I mean, I remember the tragedy, and it was horrible. I mean, anytime there's death involved, my God, you ain't got to think too hard and long about that situation. But I was not in that loop. He was a good hand. Whatever happened in that case? Do you have any idea?
I don't know all the details, but we'll get Silva on it, see if he can find something with old Joel Deaton. After 10 years of anxiety, I can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's a testimonial from Mind Bloom customer Molly. 10 years. Think about that. If you don't live with anxiety and depression, it's easy to just look at someone, maybe someone you love, and wonder why they just can't get up, get going, and quote unquote fix themselves. Or maybe you're wondering that about yourself. You see others living their life when you'd settle for just one day without feeling like everything was collapsing on you. It's hard, but it doesn't have to be this way. Mind Bloom knows this and can help. Mind Bloom is the leader in at-home ketamine therapy for people looking for a new way to treat their anxiety and depression. They combine science-backed medicine with a guided treatment plan that's both affordable and fast-acting. To begin, take Mind Bloom's online assessment and schedule a video consult with a licensed psychiatric clinician. If approved, you'll work with Mind Bloom on your specific treatment plan, and you'll be mailed a customized kit complete with medicine, a journal, and treatment materials. After only 2 sessions, 87% of Mind Bloom clients reported improvements in depression, and 85% reported improvements in anxiety. It's time to enter your next chapter in mental health and well-being. Achieve transformational outcomes with Mind Bloom. Right now, Mind Bloom is offering our listeners $100 off your first 6-session program when you sign up at mindbloom.com/JR and use promo code JR at checkout. Go to mindbloom.com/JR, promo code JR for $100 off your first 6-session program today. That's mindbloom.com/JR, promo code JR. As we're getting closer to the show, we start to see more build and more hype on the creative, and it's really the first chance that we get to see sort of seeds of Lex Luger and Ric Flair. Did you guys remember thinking, hey, that's going to be our next hot angle? Did you think that was more than just a passing, we have to have main events every show, but every now and again we have a landmark event. Did you think this is going to be our version maybe of Hogan, Andre, or what have you, Flair?
I don't know that we had any other alternative, Conrad.
Yeah.
What else was available that hadn't been done to death? And and if you look at a poster, as we used to say when they did posters, it makes a great poster.
Yes.
The artwork, the graphics, all those things are very favorable. So I'm a big believer that we didn't have a lot of other directions to turn, so it had to work.
Talk to me a little bit about why the need, do you think, to not do that match here at Bunkhouse Stampede? I understand that this is essentially a gimmick match pay-per-view, but if we're trying to sell tickets, if we're trying to, if we acknowledge TV ratings are down and they just sabotaged our last show, and now they've tried to counter program us with a free show, is there a thought to maybe we do quote unquote hot shot Flair and Luger and put it out there?
I'm sure there was some discussion about that, but I truly believe that the pay-per-view element of marketing, how you market it, and the uniqueness of the Bunkhouse Stampede was the deciding factor. They wanted one major attraction, that being the Bunkhouse Stampede, that ironically Dusty won. And I don't remember anybody being overwhelmed with that decision. We had a chance right there. Dusty was a made man, for God's sakes.
Yes.
He didn't need to win the Bunkhouse Stampede. It didn't move the needle. And that's just the truth of it. So we had a chance there to elevate somebody, maybe Luger, maybe somebody else that you have a feeling that could get over, but they just need a little something to push them over the top. But Dusty winning the Bunkhouse Stampede was unnecessary. It was that was more of an ego thing.
Well, instead of going with Flair and Luger in singles competition on this show, we got Flair working with Road Warrior Hawk one-on-one. And don't get me wrong, I think in another time, another place, Road Warrior Hawk would have been a major single star. But here he has been presented for such a long time as quote unquote just a tag team guy. Don't get me wrong, the hottest tag team act there was, but still a tag team guy. It doesn't usually lend itself to people thinking, oh, he's a threat for the title, right?
Correct, but he was so impressive. I was really looking. Now you mentioned that, I was really looking forward to that match. I thought it's going to be fun. It's different. Yes. It's going to be very interesting to see how Rick lays it out, and Rick's calling the plays in that match. He called the plays in all of his matches. That's what great heels do. They lead the way, and he was. There was nobody better than Flair in laying out a match and making sure that his adversary got shine and looked good. The sad part about it to me, which always aggravated me, was the fact that so many of Rick's matches that would end up in a non-finish.
Right.
And so a DQ or a double count out or whatever, DQ meaning Dairy Queen. I used to laugh at that, but anyway, that's another story. The disqualification, he was just he was brilliant at it. But the problem was, as I said, or going to say, he never got closure on some of these big matches because it was always not always, but it was more often than not a non-finish. I don't know who that helps, quite frankly.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what helps any chance you get. Jimmy's Famous Seafood. Heard us bragging about it for a few weeks here on the program. What are you waiting for? They're the best crab cakes in the world, and now you can get them delivered to you free. That's right. Free 2-day nationwide shipping on orders over $125 when you use our promo code Jim Ross at jimmysfamousseafood.com. That's where you'll find the best crab cakes in the world. And they've even included them in the famous gift box, which has 2 different crab soups that Jim just loves. A self-admitted soup snob. He thinks the crab soups here are the bee's knees. They also got a crab dip in this package. They got seafood seasoning and their signature bay sauce. Maybe you're a big football fan like Jim and I. You want a tailgate bundle. I can take care of that too, with wings and ribs and crab dip and crab cake mix. You can even create your own package. I routinely order from Jimmy's Famous Seafood, and all you got to do is try it one time, and you will too. Jim's pro tip from Jan was to finish off those crab cakes in the broiler. I make mine on my grill, and they're fantastic. I can't recommend them enough. And this is a perfect gift if you're thinking of, hey, I need to get so-and-so a gift, or I need to get such and such a gift. I used them as corporate gifts this past year. I'm a big believer in Jimmy's Famous Seafood. I think you'll try it one time and you will be too. Just check it out for yourself. Jimmy'sFamousSeafood.com. Use that promo code Jim Ross. It's about as good as it gets when it comes to seafood, right, Jim?
Absolutely. You know, this weekend I got a text message from John, one of the owners, Johnny Crab Cakes, and
yes,
we have a mutual real good friend named Greg Roman, who was the former offensive coordinator, as in the last week of the Ravens. And Greg is a huge pro wrestling fan. He's a historian. He's just any wrestling fan would enjoy talking to him. He might be a great guest for one of your add-on shows somewhere down the road, because he's a student of the game, and he's this year trying to coach. What's that quarterback's name? Jackson.
He's going to do all right, old Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, he's got to get healthy. But that put the knife in my buddy. Yeah, because he had no quarterback.
Yeah,
you don't win the NFL without a great quarterback. You just don't.
You know.
So anyway, we texted about that, and I told him we really appreciated his business. And he said he's honored to be on our show, and it's working, and the wrestling fans are responding. They're hearing our sales message, and they believe what we're saying to be true, and because it is true.
It is true.
It is true. So give it a shot. I love the free shipping. That's important, and but quality wise, I've never had anything remotely close that beats it. You know, we've had a lot of great sponsors that sell food. Nobody is going to top this one. This is the best stuff, and as Connie said, it's a great gift idea.
Yes,
great gift idea, and you could, it's like you could do your own catering.
Yeah,
and it's really, really cool. So anyway, I'm a big believer in Jimmy's, as is Connie, and they're great wrestling fans. They support our business, so why don't we support theirs?
Jimmy's Famous Seafood.com. Use that promo code Jim Ross. Enjoy some free shipping. I tell you what, we got to talk about something that happened on TBS that I don't think would happen on WWF programming. Let's get your take. Flair and Dusty were both in Chicago on January 12th because the Bulls were playing the Celtics, and the game is actually going to be broadcast on TBS. These guys have been cutting promos on each other for years about how much they hate each other, and now we're going to get shots of them sitting beside each other along with Jim Crockett when they do close-ups of them in the stands. And I understand that TBS is trying to get over their homegrown stars and all that stuff and cross-promote, and I understand. But goodness gracious, man, when these guys are in a feud with each other and sitting next to each other on TV, that's less than ideal, no?
I think so. Because it necessitates explaining, of which that's the wrong platform to start explaining a TV storyline. To have them both in the building was great. Having them set apart would have been better, because you'd got two shots instead of one shot. You got a little bit more exposure. At least that's my take on it. But I remember that. It was a good get for, if TBS had been more committed in that era of promoting their wrestling brand, things could be a whole hell of a lot different, a lot more competitive. And of course, I say that now, TBS is a major supporter of AEW, where I work and I earn a living, along with their sister station, TNT. So I wouldn't have done it. And I think if it had been left to a stronger manager, Jimmy tried to appease those guys as much as he could. And I understand they were the stars of the show and blah, blah, blah. But at some point in time, we have to look and say, okay, what are we building for the future? Because
Yes.
no matter what, the future's coming.
Yes.
Tomorrow, if we're all lucky, we'll see the sun shine on us. Easy for me to say.
Well, let's talk about what's next here. I can't believe this is a real report from the Observer, but Meltzer would write this. However, the NWA had 8 no-shows and put on what everyone I talked with was called a very bad card in Los Angeles on Thursday night. Most of the no-shows were guys who were pulled from the card for financial reasons, meaning the cost of flights from Honolulu to Los Angeles and then to Charlotte, as opposed to Hawaii to Charlotte, then Nassau. And the card was advertised with a 7 p.m. start, but a good percentage of the tickets printed listed an 8 p.m. start. But the show started at 6:35, even though very few people were there, and it ended before 9 p.m. So if you arrived at 8 o'clock, like your ticket said, you missed most of the show.
Damn.
This, to me, is how you kill a town. This is almost unforgivable that it's this sort of who's on first. Did you know all of this is happening at the time, or are you just hearing about it after the fact?
No, in the wrestling world, Conrad, as you've probably grown to know over the many years that you've been involved, bad news travels so fast. It's almost embraced. It's just like, we thrive on this shit. And I think that's kind of where we were there. Yeah, we were aware of it. It steps back to where, Jimmy, God bless him. I mean, he was so good to me, and I thought the world of him. But I could see that his hands were tied in a lot of times, and he was just a guy that just didn't. He hated to say no. Did you get that feel when you talked with him in those wonderful interviews you did?
Yes.
He just didn't want to disappoint talent. He was that parent that would let you stay out late,
Yes.
and he just had a good heart. But he needed to make some change. He would eventually see the light, so to speak, but it was too late.
Well, I'll tell you, we got some unhappy folks. Meltzer would write this. In recent weeks, the promotion has lost Terry Taylor, Big Bubba Rogers, and apparently the Rock and Roll Express quit this afternoon from all the reports out of New York because they're unhappy about their push. The odds of Steve Williams returning are less than 50-50. Sean Royal quit, as well as names like Chris Champion, Brad Armstrong, and Eddie Gilbert might as well have disappeared. And there are others who are looking to get out as well.
Yeah. All those guys could have been utilized.
Yes.
All those guys, you can look at that graphic you're watching on
YouTube.
Thank you. And you can say, well, why didn't Big Bubba win the Bunkhouse Stampede?
Right.
Doc. I can see why the Rock and Roll might not win it because they're a team. But quite frankly, it was been an opportunity to elevate somebody's perception. We missed on that opportunity, and we gave it to someone who had the most TV exposure and long running in the whole company. I guess you could argue Flair might be that guy, but they both shared a spotlight that was beginning to get too small.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's unfortunate because, and I think you hit the nail right on the head at the start of our discussion today. You talked about how we had no momentum, and it feels like all the momentum's on the WWF side, and boy, they're starting to jump ship here left and right. Looking back, do you remember feeling like the Bunkhouse Stampede was do or die for JCP, make or break, or is that just something you feel in hindsight now?
No, maybe in hindsight, I didn't feel it at the time.
Okay.
I didn't feel the urgency of that extreme, quite honestly. But hey, look, we all knew it was nut cutting time.
Right.
Balloon payments coming due, and monies are not there, and all the bad news you could embrace was coming our way. So it was a tough time. Basically, I would not have been surprised at anything I heard going to work any morning, like we're shutting it down, or like we're selling, or we have to cut payroll. I got my payroll cut there, and but it was always made up for. Uh, so it was just hard, buddy. It's just a hard scenario to knowing that the next phone call you may result in a lot of bad news.
Well, it's pretty bad news when the Royal Rumble rating comes out. The show does an 8.2 rating, which is the highest viewed wrestling program on cable ever at this point.
Yeah.
So
It was
the Royal
free.
Rumble's a hit. Yes. How do you beat free? I don't think you can.
I don't think so.
So let's talk about the Bunkhouse Stampede and knowing that we're heading up against what will be the most watched cable wrestling thing of all time at that point. First, we got to deal with some card changes. The sheep herders, who are going to become the bushwhackers, are supposed to be taking on the Rock and Roll Express, but the Rock and Rolls are out of here. Steve Williams isn't there either. Neither's Mike Rotundo. He's announced as taking on Sting in the pregame, but he's not actually there. And then we see Garvin and Sting team up to defeat the sheep herders in a dark match. And then it's time to just finally.
Why would you use that in the dark?
I don't know.
Seriously. I don't understand that logic. I might be wrong.
Next up, we get Nikita Koloff. And I know what you're thinking. Boy, I hope he goes to a 20-minute draw. Well, he does.
Yeah.
Against Bobby Eaton. Listen, of all the things that made a Nikita match work, I don't think 20 minutes was ever part of the equation.
I agree.
Meltzer would to say Nikita did nothing would be giving him more of a compliment than he deserves. Bobby held the hammerlock on the last 35 seconds when they slugged it out. And after the bout, Stan Lane showed up and they doubled on Nikita for a few seconds. This is a candidate for the worst match of the year, and he gives it a negative 2-star rating. Jeez. And let me just remind everybody, we're not picking on Nikita, but the opponent is Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton has never had a bad match.
Not that I ever saw.
Until this one. And next up, the hits keep on coming. It's Larry Zbyszko and Barry Windham. This gets a star and a quarter, but they too, I think, go probably too long for the Western States title. 19 minutes and 16 seconds. Larry Zbyszko gets the win.
That was somewhat of a surprise. Excuse me, Conrad. Somewhat of a surprise because, Barry was always one of Dusty's favorites. Barry had this unlimited upside that seemingly no one could ever attain for him. He was probably one of the more underutilized talents, and part of that's on Barry. There was reliability issues in the eyes of some that you couldn't count on him. I never felt that way, but I knew that for whatever reason, the creator was motivating him to be as good as he could be. I don't know that maybe on isolated occasions, he showed exactly what he was made of, but it wasn't often enough, and at least in my view. So I don't know that we ever saw the on a long-term, consistent basis the very best that Barry Windham had to offer.
Well, we know that Barry Windham's got bigger things. He's going to be turning on with this Lex Luger story, and it's going to be a bigger angle. And really, who cared about the Western States title?
Nobody. It was another deal to appease talent.
Right.
Hey, look, we're making you a champion. You're getting a belt. Oh, okay. Who cares?
Yes. Who cares?
Are you going to be over? Are you going to draw money? Well, probably not, but you got a title. Western States Heritage title. And that was an old title. I think at one time was kind of based out of maybe Amarillo or I think the Funks had something to do with it. So Dusty had experience in that with that name, but it was just most guys kind of shook their head in dismay when they found out that we were creating another title, which would be meaningless, and it was.
Next up, the match you said you were kind of intrigued to see. They get 21 minutes and 39 seconds. Road Warrior Hawk gets a win over Ric Flair, but it's by DQ. So, of course, Flair
retained. Same formula. Same formula, Conrad. What would it have hurt for Ric Flair to beat a tag team guy, even as great as Hawk was? What would it have hurt for Flair to go over.
Yes.
He made Hawk a Superman, but there's a million ways to get 3 seconds out of this thing, and we explored none of those options. Disqualification finish just took the air out of the sails of the house, because I think they actually wanted Flair to win, and but anyway, it didn't work out that way. But that was a part of that formula, and if I can remember that 30 something years ago, you can imagine how it was in the heat of battle, because everybody knew more often than not, Flair's going to leave with the title, so to speak, and he's not going to get pinned, and he's not going to pin it. Nobody gets pinned. So you have this hellacious work ethic, and for what? So I always thought Rick was that was bad booking. I don't think he should have. I thought he should have been treated better in that respect.
Well, something in hindsight I think we could be critical of is, the Larry Zbyszko Barry Windham match had a ref bump, and the very next match here with Flair and Hawk also has a ref bump, where the ref stays down for an incredible 3 minutes. As Hawk has Flair pinned, JJ hits Hawk with a chair. Hawk doesn't sell it. Then Flair hits Hawk with a chair, and Hawk kicks out just before the count of 2. And Meltzer would say he probably should have hung around till 2 3/4 to get the right dramatic effect. Either way, Flair suplexed Hawk, who didn't sell it one bit. Flair hits Hawk again with a chair, but this time the ref sees it, and that's the DQ. So 3 3/4 stars. Maybe a little predictable, too many non-finishes, too many referee bumps, but it's time for our main event. It's the Bunkhouse Stampede. And these are essentially the finals, because as we mentioned, we've had these in live events around the country, and the winners of those would qualify here. Just to recap for everybody, the first match on the pay-per-view was a 20-minute draw. The second match on the pay-per-view was 19 minutes and 16 seconds for the Western States title. The third match is 21 minutes and 39 seconds. And now our main event is 26 minutes and 21 seconds. We don't have any filler, any fluff. We've got really long matches here. And in this main event, as you might imagine, a cage match that Dusty Rhodes was booking, a come as you are, bunkhouse battle royal, stampede, whatever. Lots of blood. And Meltzer would say, for what it was, it's about as good as it could be. You had several guys not exactly noted for stamina, all going the distance. So you can excuse some guys resting in spots. Overall, it was brutal and bloody and basically gave us what was promised. Ivan Koloff, who was excellent, was the first guy out in 16:42 when Road Warrior Animal threw him over the cage. Animal and Warlord went out in 18 minutes. Then Arn, Tully, and Luger went out as a trio in 22:36, leaving Dusty and the Barbarian. Finally,
Conrad, that had you sitting on the edge of your seat, didn't it, Dusty and the Barbarian?
That's what I'm saying. Gosh, it was right here, man, and we just fumbled.
Yeah.
Everybody worked as hard as they could and did a good job, according to Meltzer. This is, of course, the big boot moment for Dusty. I guess this is supposed to be the start of his big retirement tour,
which nobody was going to believe anyway.
No,
it puts him right back in the spotlight. He needed to be Dusty needed to be treated a lot like Vince Sr. did Bruno back in the day. He was always taken care of. He wasn't overexposed, and he treated him special. And Dusty was on everything. And that decreases the desire to see more of what you've been seeing all the time. Give me a little bit of something different. Throw me an off-speed pitch. Do something that makes me open my eyes and raise in my eyebrow raising type thing. But it was I just didn't understand that. But Jimmy was so, I think, Conrad, would you say that Jimmy was I don't know what word I'm looking for. Was Jimmy just a Dusty Mark?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know another way to say it. He had, and years later, we would see people say that about Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. I just want to add some context to that. Dusty Rhodes, and I realize that some of our younger listeners only know him through his polka dot run and everything that happened after that. But if you go back and you take a look at his body of work through the 70s and 80s, he was one of the biggest box office attractions in all of wrestling and
Exactly.
critically acclaimed. He won Wrestler of the Year over and over and over. And everywhere he went, he was a box office attraction. He made money everywhere he went. And the very idea of Starcade, this super, these days it's called a premium live event, that was Dusty's idea years before there was a WrestleMania. So to lean into a guy who's had so much success, I think makes all the sense in the world. Like you stand on the shoulders of giants, is the phrase that people like to use. And so if you're an Eric Bischoff trying to figure out, hey man, what could work? Well, let's ask the guy who's made more money in wrestling than anybody, Hulk Hogan. And let's lean into that. And I think a generation before, Jimmy Crockett probably did that with Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's just hard to separate friendship and fandom and all that stuff from business.
No
And,
doubt.
it's just, we're human and they liked each other. They traveled together. Hell, Jimmy even put, remember that one Learjet had, what did it have on it? Stardust or?
The rumor is it said Stardust. I don't know if that was true or not.
Oh,
I've
it
never
did.
seen.
I saw
Okay.
it.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty cool. And he got it before Flair did.
Well, the issue with this pay-per-view, of course, is the fans are going to start chanting refund after the match is over.
That's
And
always encouraging, huh, Conrad?
after your main event finishes, for them to start chanting refund, it's unbelievable. I also want to remind everybody that we still have a ticket issue here. So some of the fans are upset, not just because they weren't big Barbarian or Dusty Rhodes fans, but it's because the tickets are printed with a start time of 7:30. So they showed up over an hour late. This is what happens maybe when you don't take care of your business.
Yeah.
When you don't sweat the details, when you don't have the proper staff. And it's a little thing, but for the folks who are, going out of their way to buy tickets and pay for parking and save up and bring the family, and then wait, it's already happening. We missed it.
It's a big investment.
It's a big deal.
It's just the infrastructure was lacking. We talked about that a lot. Jimmy he was so loyal to people. Guys worked for him forever. I mean, my God, how long did Klondike Bill hang around? And other guys. He just was loyal to them. He kept them employed, no matter the cost. And that's a good man that does that. It may not be the greatest business decision, but it's a good human being that thinks that way.
Talk to me about the fallout from this show. Pretty legendary stories go around that after this show, there's lots of people who are upset. Tony Schiavone has told the story as he piled into the back of a limousine with some of the horsemen as they were going to go party with Ric Flair and Lawrence Taylor and all that. Hey, man, maybe next year Dusty can just book himself against himself. The idea being some of the guys are feeling like this is the Dusty show. And I've seen other criticisms say that this is really the beginning of the end of Dusty as a booker. And other people would say that this show did more to kill Jim Crockett Promotions in the long run than any other show. Where do you land on the criticism that this may have been the beginning of the end for Dusty as the booker and maybe the beginning of the end for Jim Crockett?
I think it was, I don't know about the ends for Crockett. I don't know if I'll go that far, but as far as Dusty being overexposed and winning this Bunkhouse Stampede, it was that to me that I'd agree with that assessment. Yeah, it was a little too much, but nobody would say that, but it was a little too much.
Who had Jimmy's ear besides Dusty? Anybody?
I don't know that anybody did. Maybe on minor issues, JJ, because JJ was more a businessman, more organized. You could understand, you could read his penmanship because a lot of those booking sheets are just done with pencil.
Yes.
Whatever. So, it was I think everybody opened their eyes like, wait a minute, we keep doing the same thing. over and over, and none of it's working. So why would logically, as a business person, would you not, you know, try something different? So, but we just Dusty had that hole, that magical hole, seemingly over Jimmy, and it got a lot of heat on Jimmy because I know that a lot of the talents when they were just with Jimmy would really express themselves in a very firm way. You know, he's killing us, and you're not doing anything about it. So Jimmy took a lot of heat for that, uh, and was it deserved? Part of it, sure, it's got to be. It's got to be considered, you know, that. But it was hard. It was hard to communicate. You didn't know who to say to who to talk to, and maybe that was a good thing about you. Ask who's close to Jimmy, JJ, maybe. You know, I don't even know how close Jimmy and David were on all that stuff. To be honest with you, so I don't know if they were on the same page. I'm not gonna bet on it. So because I don't think David, I don't know what you've talked to him
Yeah.
infinitely more than I, but golly, I think he'd probably tell you right now, yeah, we needed to make some changes, and Jimmy refused to do it.
My wife started me on athletic greens right at the start of the pandemic. She wanted to optimize our immune system. And you might be asking yourself, hey, what is this stuff? We see that scooper right there? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're going to be absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, your focus, your recovery, your aging, all of your things. And it's also lifestyle friendly. Whether you're trying to eat keto or paleo or vegan or dairy or gluten-free, it has less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals, no artificial anything, and it still tastes good. It's going to support better sleep quality and recovery, better mental clarity and alertness. And we look at it as almost like an investment in your all-in-one nutritional insurance. Don't just take Jim's word for it. Don't just take Conrad's word for it. Go check it out, man. 7,000 5-star reviews.
Unheard of.
It's crazy to think. I couldn't tell you the last time I left a review. It has to be over the top, crazy awesome for me to go out of my way, figure out where to leave it, type it up, create an account, click send. It has wowed over 7,000 people. Not 1 star, not 2 star, not 3 star, not 4 star. Dave Meltzer's favorite 5-star affair. And right now it's time to reclaim your health. Arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is visit athleticgreens.com/JR. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/JR to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. That's athleticgreens.com/JR.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Help you, and I tell you, it's so simple. I mean, it's idiot proof.
It is.
It's idiot proof. So, and it helps you get healthier. And I just think it's just a no-brainer. This is a great product, folks. You're going to get a year's supply for free.
That's right.
That's a hell of a deal. I don't care what you're buying.
No doubt.
So give it a shot. A lot of guys are using it. I know a lot of the wrestlers use it because it's a quick startup. It's a quick way to get your motor started in the morning with that 1 scoop. 1 scoop does everything.
For baby Earl Hebner here with Jim Crockett Promotions, he's going to go on to work with the WWF and do the big evil twin referee angle. And
yeah,
I think that worked out for him.
I do too. Yeah, Earl's a good referee. And so is Dave. Earl was just maybe a notch above.
Let's talk about the Bunkhouse Stampede. Instagram a wrestling historian wants to know, Jim, do you think the Bunkhouse Stampede concept could work today?
Well, it would if it was built correctly and wasn't overexposed, and you had intriguing stories and existing marriages on the of those 11 guys like we had here. We talked about today. It's all a matter of presentation. So yes, it would work today if it was built correctly. And that goes for just about anything you want to talk about in pro wrestling.
Let's do another one here. Ari wants to know, was it a mistake in hindsight to hold the event in the WWF's backyard of Long Island, much like it was a mistake to perhaps hold Starrcade in Chicago rather than Greensboro?
Well, in hindsight, yes. Going into it, you're going to play the number one market in the country. You think you'll get a little bit of, media exposure in a positive way. There's a story there coming into the backyard of the WWF. So, yeah, I think that in hindsight, it was an issue. In foresight, it was like, hey, we got big balls. We're rowdy. We're crazy, and we're aggressive. And you're not going to push us around. It was a big mistake.
Michael wants to know, I remember on Something to Wrestle, Bruce mentioned the Hogan 88 episode that the feeling was the WWF was feeling in the WWF was Crockett running the show there in Nassau was the first declaration of war. What was the feeling on the Crockett side about that? Did you guys think it was we're going in there and we're going to kick their ass in their own backyard?
Well, that was the psychology that was utilized.
Yeah.
That let's band together. We're one team. Let's travel on the road. Let's go to their backyard and have one hell of a show, and to leave people talking for a long time to come. It was that whole market thing was interesting. It became a bigger story to Long Island after it happened. Going into it, it had one set of consequences and one set of issues to discuss. But quite frankly, after the event was over, that was one of the things that was used as an excuse for the lack of success.
One last question here. Prince of Strong Style wants to know, at any point, did either Hawk or Animal have potential as single stars in JCP, or was the smart money just to keep them together as a team?
I think if it's not broke, you don't try to fix it. Road Warriors are an iconic team that still to this very day will never be replaced in memory and perception. They were a unique act. They were first of their kind in a lot of ways. So I don't know. It was a declaration in a sense, but nobody knew how far this war was going to go. And sometimes it's just a matter of what's Vince's mood going to be like today. What's he going to do to us today? Because he had all the ammo, and we didn't. So I don't know that going into his backyard was smart. I don't know if it had changed things very much. I think he still would have been aggressive, and he retarded the growth of the pay-per-view commodity in business and JCP at a time that JCP could not afford those issues. We needed paydays, but it didn't work. It didn't work out that way. So that was a key time. You go back to your historian and studying trends and what set this back and so forth. The Bunkhouse Stampede certainly was an event that had much more, many more issues than we perceived it to be at the time that it happened. It was a difference maker. It was and ironically, for the most part, other than the timing, the show was pretty decent.
Well, I'll tell you what else is pretty decent, and that's my conversation with Gary Juster. You've heard his name for years. We've talked about him on this program for years. He's been in and around the business for decades, but you've probably never heard an interview with him until now. I recently sat down with Gary over at adfreeshows.com on a little program we call Insiders, and we got his behind the scenes take on the AWA, the NWA, WCW, Ring of Honor, and now MLW. And by the way, if you missed it and you're still in the mood for a little Royal Rumble chatter, this past Tuesday, the 24th, on the exact 35th anniversary of the very first Royal Rumble, which was head to head with the show we covered today, we were joined by Hacksaw Jim Duggan. You got to do a live watch along with the guy who won the very first Royal Rumble, and it only happened at adfreeshows.com. Maybe if you're still jonesing for some more Rumble talk, Well, last year on the 30th anniversary of Royal Rumble 92, we watched that match with the Nature Boy himself. You can go relive that conversation and the interaction with fans. They asked the GOAT all the champions or all the questions about that championship bout over at adfreeshows.com. And of course, we heard Jim talk about it earlier. My man JJ Dillon had great penmanship. Want to see it? Well, we've got the Crockett book, 1985 in JJ's handwriting from the genius mind of Dusty Rhodes. This is from Jim Crockett Jr.'s personal collection. His brother David has the book, and we break it down page by page, day by day, show by show, town by town, gate by gate. You see the matches, you see the moments, you see the dollars. It's a peek behind the curtain that's unprecedented in wrestling, and it's all exclusive at adfreeshows.com. And a little bonus action every single month with JR. We do a bonus episode with Jim every single month at adfreeshows.com. Love to have your business over there, and love to have your business at jrsbbq.com. We talked earlier about all these delicious new foods you can get, whether it's Jimmy's Famous Seafood or Backyard Butchers. But you know what spices it up a little bit? JR's Red Ass Hot Sauce. You know what adds a little flavor to anything, whether it's popcorn or eggs? The all-purpose seasoning. And of course, you still got your main event mustard and your Chipotle ketchup and 2 types of barbecue sauce. Something for everybody at jrsbbq.com. Right, Jim?
Yeah, and we work every day. It sounds ridiculous. It might be an eye roller, but we ship every day. We got a little staff there in Norman, Oklahoma, and we ship out as rapidly as possible. Everything's in stock right now. Another category that fits into the great gifts realm, because for a Father's Day or Valentine's Day or whatever the day, birthday, just pick out your day, and it's a great gift idea. We got these gift boxes that are really cool. They're packed well. It all looks good, but the main thing is it tastes good. So we appreciate everybody's business and consideration for make us your source for gifts for the wrestling fan in your life. There's somebody that's your buddy that's a big fan. What could you get them that they're going to remember and appreciate and use? So we hope that you'll check that out, jrsbbq.com, and until you're better paid, I thank you.
There it is, jrsbbq.com. We hope you guys will also check us out on YouTube. If you haven't already, we would love to have you like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications bell over at GrillingJR on YouTube.com. You can also keep up with our show at JR Grilling on Twitter and Instagram. It's Grilling JR over on Facebook. Jim Ross is on Instagram at Jim Ross BBQ. He's on Twitter at JR's BBQ. I am at Hey It's Conrad on Twitter, at Hey It's Conrad Thompson on Instagram. And you can even grab our brand new t-shirts and merch over at grillingjrtees.com, including the now infamous Where's My Push, Damn It t-shirt over at grillingjrtees.com. Next week, Jim, we're going to be back talking about one of the craziest things that ever happened in wrestling way back when the WWF was able to contract the Radicals. They jumped from WCW. It wasn't uncommon to see one guy jump, but it was very uncommon to see 4 talent come in like this: Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn, and Dean Malenko. We're going to talk about how it happened, and you're going to get the behind the scenes take from Jim Ross. Can't believe this is real, but Wooo Wings, your very own virtual restaurant concept, is now open, and fans can enjoy the legendary flavors and world championship wings by ordering with their Uber Eats or Postmates app. Wooo Wings is now open in Nashville, San Antonio, Jacksonville, as well as Huntsville and Tuscaloosa, right here in Alabama. Many more locations coming soon. As a virtual restaurant, Wooo Wings is looking to partner with existing restaurants in major metro areas. Tell your favorite sports bar or local restaurant you want Wooo Wings in your town, and to visit RicFlairWings.com for more information on how to become a partner. But if you're in Nashville, San Antonio, Jacksonville, Huntsville, or Tuscaloosa, hop on your Uber Eats or Postmates app and look for Wooo Wings and try the only chicken wings worthy of carrying the name of the 16-time world heavyweight champion, Wooo Wings. Be sure to check out RicFlairWings.com to become a partner. Jim, I don't know what I expected today, but I love talking about these interpromotional wars, and Bunkhouse Stampede versus the Royal Rumble was another chapter in the war. And unfortunately, we know who won it. Royal Rumble is going to be celebrating once again this weekend, and no Bunkhouse Stampedes in sight.
Hope they do well. Hope that you guys will tune in Friday night to watch Rampage. You know, I'm having such a blast working with Jericho and Excalibur and Tony. For a 4-man booth, it can get very crowded.
Yes.
It's working out nicely. I really have fun doing it. Jericho brings a great amount of energy and comedic relief. I think he and I play off each other well. Tony's, ubiquitous. He's everywhere doing interviews and working at the desk. And by the way, we have a new set. I convinced everybody that we should have it on camera last week before the Jags game on Friday night. Their game on Saturday, of course. And it was to show off my Jacksonville Jaguars a hoodie. It's the first time I ever did a wrestling show wearing a hoodie. So I remember some of those old tapes and stuff, and suits and ties and all that, which is cool. But that's Shivani and Excalibur's bailiwick. Jericho and I go a little more freewheeling. So anyway, to each his own. But check it out on Friday night. It's going to be a good show, and we appreciate your support. The ratings are up. The level of talent being presented is improving. So we're having fun with it. It's a challenge, because Friday night's not the greatest night for television.
No.
But you just keep digging away, and if you have good show after good show, then I believe, and maybe I'm just an eternal optimist, that good things happen when you do the right work.
Yes, they do. Well said. Everybody tune in this Friday night, AEW Rampage, the greatest of all time. The voice of wrestling will be on the call, and he'll be back next week right here on Grilling JR with the voice of wrestling, Mr. Jim Ross.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We love you. Appreciate your business. And we'll talk to you again very soon. As a matter of fact, next week, right here in this space.
Hey, guys, Tony Schiavone. Need to call a timeout real quick. Wanted to tell your listeners what I've been telling What Happened When listeners for a while now about all the cool things happening over on adfreeshows.com.
On a brand new edition of Insiders, Gary Juster sits down with Conrad to discuss his decades spent behind the scenes in AWA, NWA, WCW, and ROH.
I don't think it was a battle with Eric so much on TV versus house shows. It was a matter of, if they're not making money, we got to figure out, something else. We just can't let it bleed like that.
We go one-on-one with WWE Hall of Famer Teddy Long as he joins Mike Chioda for a special edition of Monday Mailbag.
And so I'm tired, man. I'm really tired, but I don't want to let Mike drive, because I already know, I already know how he drives. So anyway, I just couldn't take it no further. So I said, Mike, go ahead and, take us in. So I got in, let Mike start driving. I guess, man, I went right to sleep because I was tired. So I guess maybe 10 minutes into that ride, all of a sudden I wake up, we're like in a tailspin.
Royal Rumble season is here, and we watch back the most memorable Rumble of all time, featuring the most iconic robe of all time, alongside the Nature Boy himself.
There was only one Olivia Walker. She was classic. And but I just, out of nowhere, I just decided to pick that color in black. Here's the deal. I've never had a great physique, and that black makes you look leaner. So black on black boots. So I went to black a lot after about the age of 41. That's very simple, honest answer.
That's just a small taste of what we got waiting for you. With 4 levels to choose from, see for yourself why Ad-Free Shows is the best value in wrestling today. Sign up now at adfreeshows.com.